Pete Cornelius, welcome to Australian Musician.
Greg, thanks for having us, mate. Cheers.
No worries. Growing up, mate, getting into the guitar, whose licks were you trying to copy?
Oh, there was a bunch, really. All the usual candidates. I think the first kind of guitar player that I was really besotted by was Stevie Ray Vaughan, as was I think most guitar player in the early '90s. Um, and then naturally just sort of went back through there. Obviously, there were some records that my dad had as well, which I really got a lot from. The Peter Green era Fleetwood Mac was a great, blues education right there. Some Santana, like the Woodstock period, Santana, even some what was the record? Sorry, Deep Purple, Machine
Yeah.
Head, so Blackmore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a pretty broad range of guitar, blues, rock sort of guys there. But yeah, naturally went back through the decades and back to where it first evolved, and yeah, there's some magic stuff out there.
Yeah. And what was your first guitar?
First, well, I had an acoustic, like an old Dayon acoustic, as my first actual guitar I used to sort of play on around the house. But I saved up and bought a Les Paul custom made by Court, which was a pretty cool brand making good knockoffs of brands,
Yeah.
of famous models. And I was really into Neil Young at the time, so I was black on black sort of look. Yeah, so that was my
Yeah.
first actual proper electric guitar.
Yeah. Is it possible to develop a profile as an artist without playing on the mainland? Did you have to make many visits to Melbourne to make a name for yourself?
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. It's pretty isolated down here in Tassie. You definitely do feel removed from the current buzz of arts and culture and stuff. Definitely gotten better in the last, say, 10, 15 years. But yeah, initially it was pretty tough. Yeah, we did tour quite a bit in those early days. I remember my first mainland tour back in 1999. We covered most of the. We think we went about as far north as around the Sunshine Coast, and basically from Melbourne up. So we sort of played a lot of shows around there. We played at the Narooma Blues Festival, which was our main sort of reason for getting on the road. Um, yeah, definitely a lot of touring in those early days. Just to have to try and yeah interact with other players and people and crowds and radio stations and stuff like that. Because yeah, it's pretty limited down here in Tassie for sure.
Yeah. Do you remember the first recording experience and what have you learned since?
Yeah, I remember them pretty fondly. My dad and another bandmate of his had a little project studio. They had a little R8, I think it was called a Fostex 8-track quarter-inch machine. A bunch of pretty crappy little mics, a console. So I used to muck around with the 8-track when they weren't using it. So that was a whole lot of learning and fun, just playing around with different, overdubbing, like putting some drums down and some bass and guitar or keys or whatever. So I released a tape when I must have been about 12 or 13, called it Blue Jam, and sort of dubbed copies for my family, my mates and stuff. So that was a pretty cool experience to be able to do a multi-track recording at that age. I borrowed 4-track recorders and stuff in school on the little cassettes, which was great, but having the 8 tracks on the reel to reel was great.
Yeah. Fast forward to 2025, you got a new album. It's called Southern. Pretty much
Yeah,
an ode to Tasmania. How long has that idea been in the back of your head?
yeah. I guess Southern has been cooking for a couple of years. Um, it wasn't called Southern until the very last minute. It was just a collective of songs that I I know, I just resonated with, and I thought fitted the record quite well in terms of stylistically and lyrically, and there's even a bit of sort of historical element to the record as well about stories that went down here in Tassie. Um, so yeah, a couple of years, but it's been a great fun project to work with the producer this time. I've self-produced everything I've done up to this point. So working with Matt Fell has been really an amazing experience. He's brought a lot of knowledge to the table and experience, and yeah, just giving my songs a new kind of new lift. You know, it's like I've had a DIY kind of like, you know, one of those house makeup, you know, one of those one of those, you know, like, yeah, it's like a fresh new start. It feels good.
Yeah. And how important was it to use Tasmanian musicians for the album?
Yeah, I felt that needed to happen for me. Not only logistically, but just I just wanted to really honour the bands that I've been playing with down here, and honour the great talent we have here in Tassie. There's some fantastic players, some great facilities, and you know, I just like the idea of keeping it close. Even though I'd love to, maybe I'm thinking over the next record I might do some more collaborations with mainland artists. We can, with technology, you could do that in a heartbeat. So, but yeah, I just really wanted to keep it close to home for this one.
Yeah. There are 10 tracks on the album. Were there others that you were tinkering with that didn't make the cut?
Yeah, there was a couple of ideas. They weren't fully fledged songs, but there were definitely some grooves and some licks and some lyric kind of themes and motives and stuff floating around. But yeah, only the 10 made it to the record, and I covered a couple of songs on there as well. There's a Don Walker song and a Mia Dyson song,
Yeah.
which I wanted, like having Tasmania guys in my band. I also wanted to focus on some Australian writers that I really look up to, and thought I'd, you know, give their songs a crack as well.
Yeah. The opening track, Cruickshank, has so much happening in it sonically. Did that take longer than the others to create?
Uh, I don't remember it taking longer than the others. I think I sort of did it in chunks. So I sort of did it in three songs here, a couple of songs, I think two songs here, and then yeah, so it sort of just evolved in bits at a time. I don't remember Cruickshank taking longer. I think that was actually pretty quick, to be honest. I think that was one of the last tracks I recorded and put together. So I think by that point we kind of had a good working platform, and I don't know, it just felt like a well-oiled machine by that point, I think.
Yeah. There are some great dirty, gritty guitar sounds on the album. Who are the players that have been an influence in that style of playing?
Great. Yeah, I love Mark Rebo from Tom Waits period. Who else is nice and gritty? Tom chooses some great players. I'm just trying to think of some of the other guys he's had on his records. So my mind's a bit blank this morning. I'm just thinking about all these launch gigs coming up. Who else is out there and wacky that I like? Bill Frisell. I love Bill. He's not that dirty, but some of his out there phrases are definitely of influence. I know even early Elmore James, and even there's a guitar player that used to play on early Howling Wolf material before Hubert Summerlin. I'm just trying to think of his name. He's got a great big fat overdriven sound too. So he's, yeah. Sorry, my mind is sweet today.
Is
And
is there a song on the album that's closer to your heart than others?
I don't know. I don't know. I think after playing them live, because we had three shows this weekend. We played, or just gone three shows, and we played all that record top to bottom. So that was the first time I've played the songs live. Basically, I've done a few of the singles, but to do the whole collection in a gig, just sort of put them in a different light for me. So I think playing on the road was really, I don't know, something about that when, because I had six people in on the stage, so to have six voices just like coming on the chorus, it just felt like a big moment. Whether lyrically or not, that one's closer to my heart or not, probably not. But just in terms of feeling the warm and fuzzies, that was definitely a good warm and fuzzy song.
Yeah. Are you good at knowing when a song is finished and to leave it alone?
I think I am. Um, Having my own studio space, it's so tempting to just go, oh, I just go and like try this little sound, let's go and try this mic technique, or let's go and put this amp out in the paddock and mic that up. So yeah, it is hard to know when to just let it go. Um, but I think I'm pretty good at it. I like the idea of getting in there and maybe 3 or 4 takes. If you can't get it after that, kind of go for a walk, go and freshen your brain. And
Yeah.
it's probably not worth pushing on past that point, really, with a lot of things. So yeah, I like to think I work pretty fast, but it's definitely tempting.
Yeah. So tell me about the guitars that you did use on the album.
Sure. I think. Well, I used my Kudacaster a lot. I've recently put together a Strat with a Raya Kuda inspired setup. So I got a lap steel pickup in the bridge and a gold foil in the neck. It's a big, chunky kind of 50s profile Strat neck. I use that a lot on the record. I didn't write with it, but I did probably all the slide parts with that. There's a lot of slide on the record this time. Um, so that has probably been my go-to for a lot of color parts, not bulk parts, but color parts. I think between, I've got a nice 68 Telecaster. I use that quite a lot. I've used, what else did I use a lot on the record? Oh no, I try and just not think about it too much. Just try and go with my gut. I played an old Silvertone. Actually, got a few old Silvertones. I've played like a small-bodied Stratotone sort of one, and also an old Harmony, an H72 Harmony. I use that a lot as well. Um, what else? I think a 355 as well. I use a lot. Oh no, just I don't think there was one guitar. I tried to keep each track with its own sort of sonic palette, really, in different amps and pedals, and yeah.
Yeah. And how did you go about recording the guitar parts? Did you experiment much with miking?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I think my go-to was just an M160 Bayer ribbon mic, maybe like 4 or 5 inches from the grill. And sometimes I'll set up a stereo ribbon mic for a room for ambience, or sometimes I'll set up a mono ribbon for a room. I've also been loving the Universal Audio aux box as an attenuator, but also that they do great room and mic emulations as well and cab emulations. So what I found myself doing, what my go-to kind of setup was using an amp of sorts, using the attenuator, just a click or two, not lots of attenuation, but maybe one click, and then mic up the cab, and then also use the aux box as well for just a bigger, better sounding room. Like my space isn't very large, so to get that big kind of glorious resonance, yeah, I kind of use the aux box a lot for that.
Yeah. So once it's all done, do you chuck it in the car and have a listen?
It's a good reference, yeah. The car, absolutely. Yeah, I do. I stick it on my phone and then just go for a drive, check it all out, see how it's all listening in the mix. I know that Matt Fell, the producer as well, did the same. He's like, oh yeah, just give me a day. I'm going to go for a drive tomorrow. I'll give it a listen in the car. Yeah.
Yeah. You said you just started playing these songs live. Do you see them developing and changing over time?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, typically I'm in a three-piece band. So it's a pretty bare bones arrangement. Um, I guess that's by choice, economically and physically, three-piece band. Um, so I think, yeah, I think I'm going to miss having six people on stage for these songs because there are parts that I don't even have to touch a guitar for the verses. It's great. I can just come in with an intro and just sit back, sing, like get inside the lyric, get really involved in singing, and then I can play a solo or just throw a solo to someone else. It's such a treat. Um, I can definitely see the songs uh, becoming a bit more economic. I think in terms of parts, I'll probably choose like little highlights, I suppose, as opposed to like a best of sort of guitar part, as opposed to like sticking to one section. I think, and yeah, I think they'll definitely evolve. But who knows? It's one of those things that you know, when you get different players, different rooms, it changes from night to night, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah. So what's the plan now? Have you got a lot of gigs booked?
Not heaps. I'm definitely busy. I don't want to oversaturate the island. Like I know that we talked about briefly earlier how isolated we are here in Tassie, and it's a pretty small pool of fans who like rhythm and blues and Americana music. So um, yeah, I definitely have some shows on the mainland booked. I'm heading up to a few festivals later this year, which is great. Hopefully, some more will come through, uh, and some touring around it. It's just tricky, you know, having kids and that bit of water, that Bass Strait becomes quite a challenge when you're touring. So yeah, definitely shows coming up, but not as many as I probably really like. But it's just the way it is,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
But what are you most proud of in your music career?
Ah, most proud of. I don't know. I guess I've always stuck to my guns in terms of songs and style. Like I haven't really followed any current trends or paths. I've always just gone, you know, this is the song I've written. This is how I want it to sound like, as opposed to, you know, hearing someone on the radio going, "Oh, that's going to make me some money," or "That's going to be a really good career move." I've always just gone, "No, I just got to stick to my heart and be honest." So maybe that. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just happy to be playing music. You know, I've never had a job. You know, I left high school. I did a year of college, and during college, I was still touring and playing lots of music. And you know, I think I'm pretty proud of that to be able to still be playing music. You know, I just turned 40 last year, so I think that's pretty. I'm pretty proud of that. That's good.
All right, Pete, it's been great to chat. The album is Southern. It's out now. Great album. You should be really proud of it. And we look forward to seeing you on the mainland, maybe.
Great. Yeah, I look forward to getting back across. And yeah, thanks, Greg. Thanks for your support and help. Appreciate it.